such as a wildfire, and you're ordered to evacuate. I'll bet you wish you had more time in that moment. Now's your chance to buy yourself that time. Sign up for Nixle and Mendo Alerts on our website, mendoready.org. Do it today.
If you want your family to be as resilient as possible, it's important to take some time today and visit mendoready.org, where you can look up your pre-established evacuation zones on our current emergencies map. You can also find important tools to help maintain your situational awareness, such as the Alert California wildfire cameras and the Caltrans road conditions cameras. We hope you'll take some time today to prepare so that your family can be Mendo ready. Thank you.
When I first realized that I was going to be a parent, I was super scared. After 2 or 3 weeks of meeting in the home visiting program, I was totally comfortable with the fact that I was going to have a baby. Yes, I was still scared, but at the same time, I felt like I had some sense of strength behind me.
If I didn't have those resources that Jeanette provided me, I think it would be harder now.
I got into the program and I realized, like, oh, this is nice. And now look at me, I work at a family resource center with parents and families, all this stuff.
I'm so grateful that I got the opportunity to meet my home visitor, because without her, I think that I would be 10 steps behind from where I'm at right now.
Pero pues aquí pues ya los enseñan un poquito más cosas que uno no sabía. Cómo cuidarla, cómo desarrollarla, cómo educarla, y pues es algo bien, porque pues cosas que yo no sabía, pues ya usted nos las dijo y todo como consejos, y pues muchas cosas que se aprendieron.
I don't know what's normal for a 22-month-old baby or an 18-month-old baby, you know. When we get together, we usually discuss and get some progress made with the baby. It makes me feel comfortable, and I associate my parenting with her, my home visitor, telling me, yeah, this is going great.
So it's nice to know where they're at, what stage they're at for every parent, and also to give, again, your children that head start in education.
If I had any questions with her, just call her up on the phone. You know, it was very relatable, very personal. And, you know, with her getting to know my kids, you know, she got to kind of help guide me along the way. I mean, there were so many cool things that I've learned.
I went from a very rough type of life. I was homeless, and she was able to help me get into school, and I actually have enough credits to graduate.
Morning, everybody. Welcome to the Mendocino County Commission meeting for September 19th, 2024. Today's meeting is a hybrid meeting of the Planning Commission with participants both in person and digitally. The public may participate digitally in meetings by sending comments to pbscommissions@mendocinocounty.gov or orally via telecomment in lieu of personal attendance. All public comment will be made available to the commissioners, staff, and the general public after processing by staff, and can be viewed as attachments to this meeting agenda on the Planning Commission agenda page. Mr. Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Babini.
Here.
Commissioner Jones.
Yep, I'm here.
Commissioner Wiedemann. Chair Paulum.
Here.
And Commissioner Purnell is absent by prearrangement.
Great, thank you. Do we have determination of legal notice?
Legal notice has been determined on each matter on the agenda.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have a director's report today?
Yes, good morning. Julia Krog, Planning and Building Services Director. So I just want to update the Commission that the Board of Supervisors on September 10th did adopt the Inland Zoning Code update with the recommended changes from the Planning Commission, including they did not adopt regulations at this time for low-intensity camping. During that meeting, there was direction for staff to come back in front of the board in December for further direction from the board on the low intensity camping. So my intention is to come in front of the Planning Commission prior to that December direction in front of the board to have further discussion with the commissioners and do some workshopping as well surrounding that topic. And then going in front of the board in December for further direction from them as well. And I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions for our director? All right. Thank you very much. All right, moving on. Agenda item number 4, matters from the public expression. Members of the public are welcome to address the Planning Commission on items not listed on the agenda, but within the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission is prohibited by law from taking action on matters not on the agenda. Individuals wishing to address the Planning Commission under matters from the public may do so in person, via email, or Zoom. If any members of the public are logged into the Zoom meeting who wish to speak under public expression, please raise your hand, the raise hand feature to allow staff to add you to the meeting. Did we receive any requests for telecomment under public expression?
I did not receive any comments.
Great. Is there anyone in the room who wishes to speak on anything that is not on today's agenda? All right. Do we have anyone with a raised hand on Zoom?
There are currently no raised hands on Zoom.
All right. Well, then I will close the public expression period. All right, moving on. Agenda item number 5, the consent calendar. We have the approval of the Planning Commission meeting minutes from September 5th, 2024. Any public comments on any items on the consent calendar?
I have not received any public comments.
Anyone in the room? Anyone on Zoom? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar. Someone? Anyone? Diana?
Unmute. Yes, I make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor? Eric, roll call. Thank you.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Wiedemann?
Commissioner Wiedemann?
Yes.
Commissioner Babini?
Yes.
Chair Pollen?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Great. And a note for those at home and here in the room, we're going to take the items under item 6A slightly out of order as they appear in the agenda. We're going to hear item 6A first, and then I think we're going to hear item 6C, and then item 6B. Is that the correct order that has been requested from staff?
Yes, I believe so, and we'll just want to ensure the staff member for 6C is available when we get to that item.
Okay,
Thank you.
All right. Well, then we will start with item number 6A. This is case number MS 2023-0003, Linda Rossetti. This is 1 mile east of Hopland on the southwest side of McDowell Street, 300 feet northwest of the intersection with State Route 175, located at 13012, 13014, 13016, and 13018 McDowell Street, Hopland. This is a subdivision request, if I'm not mistaken, correct? Great. All right. I'll open the public hearing now. Has there been any correspondence or telephone calls received on this matter?
All correspondence have been posted to the website.
Great, thank you very much. All right, maybe we have staff presentation, please.
Yes, good morning, everyone. This is Liam from Planning and Building Services. I've got a brief presentation for you here today. So yes, this is a minor subdivision to create 2 new lots in the old Hopland area. So this is a location map and an aerial photo. You can see it's got 4 existing residences on it and a grove in the back. I believe those are pears. And like I mentioned before, it's in the old Hopland area. It's a relatively flat parcel. Here is the tentative map for the project, for the subdivision. As I mentioned before, there's 4 existing residences. So in 1991, there was a second residential application that was approved for a second residence, and then later on in 2004, there was a use permit on this property to add 2 more residences, so that's how we ended up with 4 houses on this parcel. And as you can see, the subdivision would basically involve putting a line right in between the 2 groups of 2 houses. And there's existing easements that run along the, I guess, the northwestern side of the parcel. And both lots would have direct access from McDowell Street as well as a new access easement that runs from the existing access easement kind of in between the grouping of residences. Moving on. So as far as consistency of the project with the general plan and the zoning code, there's no new physical development proposed as part of the subdivision. And both lots would meet the 6,000 square foot minimum lot size for this zone. It's within the jurisdiction of the Hopland Public Utility District, who provides both water and sewer service to each of the houses on the lot. And the minimum setbacks for the residences would need to be shown on the parcel map. You can see they will barely meet the 6-foot side yard setbacks and will otherwise meet the front and rear yard setbacks. And it's consistent with other general plan policies and zoning regulations as discussed within the staff report that's provided. Then as far as division of land regulations go, the subdivision committee met and unanimously recommended approval of the subdivision. As I mentioned before, both lots meet the minimum lot size and the minimum width and depth requirements. I will note that both lots would have a depth greater than 3 times the average width of the lots. And staff recommends that PC or the Planning Commission approve this configuration due to physical constraints. And the reasoning there was really that in order to follow the existing kind of configuration of other parcels in the neighborhood and not end up with a parcel, I guess, that was kind of split with a line that goes from the southeastern lot line to the northwestern lot line, which would create kind of an undesirable access for the 2 lots, that the greater depth than the greater than 3 times average depth and width would be acceptable in this case. And that's discussed further in the staff report. And so as I mentioned before, there is access available to each lot via county road, and the Department of Transportation is requesting that the applicant construct residential driveway approaches to meet county road development standards for both of those new lots. I already mentioned the water and sewer connections and fire services provided by Hopland Rural Fire Protection District, and they did not have any comment on the project. In addition to the residential driveway approaches that DOT is requesting, they are also requesting that 20 feet along the west side of McDowell Street be dedicated for the ultimate improvement of that county road as well. Just some other notes. There was an initial study done and a mitigated negative declaration prepared for this pursuant to CEQA. Staff's recommending that the Planning Commission adopt the mitigated neg dec. This second bullet point you can ignore. This was erroneously left over from a previous template that I use for my PowerPoint presentations. So ignore that one. And there's a couple other conditions of approval included for the subdivision. This subdivision, or I guess this lot, is immediately adjacent to a vineyard that is within the Williamson Act, and so we're recommending that a condition of approval be added that would require a disclosure on the parcel map noting that there may be nuisances for those residences that are adjacent to the vineyard. And also, this entire lot is within the FEMA flood hazard area, and so there's some additional flood zone requirements for future development that are included in the conditions. So with that, staff's recommending approval per the staff report, and this should just say resolution, not revised resolution. Again, that was left over. This template. So with that, I'm available for any questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Liam. Questions for staff from?
I have a weird observation. I was like, why are they doing CEQA for this? So I just looked it up because minor land divisions are exempt in the city of Fort Bragg, but of course they're not in the county. That's so annoying. Sorry, just had a vent for you.
Any other questions or venting? So just so I'm clear, on the dedication for the road and for the driveway access, basically there's going to be a driveway that's constructed of some way onto McDowell Street, correct? And then what is can you be a little more specific about the dedication of the road to the county for future improvements there? What does that entail?
So as far as I understand it, it's basically just a note, or it's something that's shown on the parcel map that the owner is dedicating this land to the county because I believe the ultimate extent that DOT has planned for that road, McDowell Street, is greater than what the current right-of-way is. So they're basically ensuring that if the Department of Transportation in the future were to expand that road or widen it, that they would have the land to do so.
And if I may just add to that, Julia
Please.
Krog, Planning Building Services Director, in order for Department of Transportation would then take it to the Board of Supervisors to actually accept that dedication that's being made. So that would be the formal action taken by the County Department of Transportation to accept any dedication for expanded right-of-way width, essentially.
And that would happen concurrently with this, or this would happen in the future?
No,
if
this would
the
happen in the
county-
future separately,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
It would be something done either likely after the map has been recorded. I don't believe it can happen concurrently, but.
Deputy County Counsel Matthew Kudrowski, there will be an offer to dedicate on the map. That's the phrase. So I don't know that the board or the DOT has any immediate plans to do anything with this roadway or widening it. It appears there's a fire hydrant in the area that will be asked for dedication. So looks like a larger project of DOT in the future. So at some point when the county is ready to actually accept the dedication and add this to the road system, that would go to the Board of Supervisors.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Wiedemann?
Yes, I just had a quick question about, with that dedicated easement for this road, do they still have front yard setback? I mean, to meet the requirements?
Yeah, this is Liam. So yeah, the front yard setback would still be calculated from the lot line, not from the edge of the easement, as far as I understand. So, so they would still be able to meet the front yard setbacks.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for staff?
Nope.
All right. Do we have the applicant available to speak on this one? It appears we do not. All right, well, I won't invite the applicant to speak then. I'll now open this up to public comment. The commission will now hear public comment on this item. The commission will start with public comments in the room and then hear from telecommenters that are connected virtually via Zoom. When called to speak, please state your name for the record. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. Speakers are asked to please address their comments to the meeting chair and refrain from using profanity or engaging with conversation with members of the audience or staff. Is there anyone in the room that would like to speak on this item? All right. Do we have any hands raised on Zoom?
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
All right, then. Well, then at that point, I will close the public comment on this. Do we have any final remarks from staff?
This is Liam. I've got nothing. Thanks.
You got more than nothing, Liam. I'm guessing the applicant doesn't have any final remarks. Any additional questions or discussion from the commission? Nope. All right. I will then close the public hearing on this item. And the matter is now before the commission. I would invite a motion from the commission on this topic. But do I? I'm going going to pass the gavel to my vice chair for a moment. So formal, I know. Let's see. Let's see if I can find. Okay, where do we're putting the resolutions now.
First page.
Top
First-
of
It should be
page
on
one.
the bottom of the first
Bottom of
page.
page one.
Bottom of page 1.
Sorry.
Okay.
I know, it took me.
So just move to adopt a mitigated negative. It's actually on page 2 of the,
That's
page
what
3 of the PDF.
That's what
First,
Right. All right. Then I would move by resolution that the Planning Commission adopt a mitigated negative declaration and a mitigation monitoring and reporting program for the project and grant MS 2023-003 as proposed by the applicant based on the facts and findings and subject to the conditions of approval contained in the attached resolution.
Do we have a second?
a second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Babini,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yep.
Chair Pollen,
Yes.
and Commissioner Wiedemann.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, I have my power back now. All right, do we have staff here for item 6C?
No, I was going to ask that we just continue with the regular scheduled calendar to 6B. So.
All right, then. All right, then we will hear now item 6B. This is case number UM 2024-0003, Lighthouse Point Vacation Owners Association. This is a request for a modification of a coastal development use permit, CDU 20-92, to legalize an existing fire suppression pump house, 2 10,000-gallon water storage tanks, and to authorize the installation of a fire alarm control panel within the existing pump house. I'll now open the public hearing on this. Has there been any correspondence or telephone calls received?
I haven't received. All correspondence have been posted to the website.
Great, thank you very much. All right, I would ask for a staff presentation, please.
Okay, hi, this is Liam again.
All right.
So again, yeah, this is a modification of a use permit, and this is a pretty straightforward project. It's really just legalizing existing development that's present on the site. So this is in the point. Oh yeah, sorry, I need to share my screen. Okay, there we go. So this project is in the Point Arena area, and you can see trapezoid-shaped parcel is right on the intersection of Lighthouse Road and State Route 1. A little bit of background about this property. So it was originally permitted in 1969 as a 30-space campground, and it's been converted and modified several times through the years. There was a conversion of a portion of the campground sites to a mobile home park. There's been addition of spaces, a 10,000-gallon water tank, swimming pool, caretaker residence, utility upgrades, and the conversion of an existing residence to a 50-seat restaurant and new septic system, 2002. As it's currently operated today as timeshare units, I believe. And the reason this use permit modification is before you today is because the owner had submitted a building permit application to install the fire suppression system. And during the processing of that building permit, it was discovered that the pump house in which the fire suppression system is located and one of the water tanks that's behind that green lattice structure you can see in the photo were not previously permitted. And so the building permit was placed on hold, and the owner was asked to apply for this use permit modification to legalize those structures. So as you can see in the photo, it includes this small pump house, this green lattice structure, and the 2 water tanks that are behind it. So for the coastal element and zoning consistency, there's no increased density because there's no new development or no new physical development at least happening as part of this project. And there's no encroachment upon resource lands. The nearest property that's zoned as a resource land is to the south of the parcel. It's zoned with the agricultural district. That's more than 500 feet away from where these structures are located. It meets the setback and height limit requirements for the zone. It's shielded from view by State Route 1. There's a steep slope between State Route 1 and the property that obscures these structures, and I believe I included a Google Maps street view image in the staff report just to show that. It's not within an ESHA or a hazard area. That should say hazard area. Otherwise meets the coastal zoning code highly scenic area development criteria, and each of those criteria are listed and responded to in the staff report. And there's no transportation or public access impacts because this isn't a residential structure. And there's no additional ground disturbance that would occur. Because, again, this is just a legalization of structures. So just some other notes. This was determined to be categorically exempt from CEQA. Oh, and I did want to mention there are a couple exterior lights on the pump house structure. The top one looks to be used for emergencies. And then you can see the bottom one. When I visited the site, it didn't seem like the strength of the exterior light here would extend beyond the boundaries of the parcel, but it's a little bit hard to tell when it's not nighttime. So staff is just recommending that those exterior lighting regulations in the code be added as a condition, as a note. But it doesn't seem that shielding necessarily in this case, although it could be added. And so with that, staff is just recommending approval per the staff report and the resolution. This is just a photo of one of the fire hydrants on the site that the pump house feeds. So with that, yeah, I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for staff?
I have a simple one. I'm just wondering why this wasn't processed just as a CDP, since you know, it's a physical, it's like infrastructure. It's not actually related to the use campground. It's just like, so I'm just curious why you brought it as a use permit, just to understand your process.
Yeah, I think the reasoning would probably be just that these utility structures are associated with the overall use as a resort, and since the resort was originally permitted under a use permit, that it was just more expeditious to modify the existing use permit than have them submit an entirely new development permit.
Fair.
Any other questions?
I have none at this time.
Okay. Well then, do we have the applicant to speak on this? Please come up and address your name. Please speak your name for the record and let us know what you got.
My name is Jerry Sargent.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Sargent.
I'm sorry, I'm Harvey.
Oh, no problem. Do you have a presentation or anything you'd like to say to the commission?
No, I believe Lamb's laid everything out. And if you have any questions, I'm here and available now.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions for the applicant? No? Thanks for driving all the way over. All right, I'll then move on to public comment. The commission will now hear public comments on this item. We'll start with public comment in the room and then hear from telecommenters connected via Zoom. When you're called to speak, please state your name for the record. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. Speakers are asked to please address their comments to the meeting chair and refrain from using profanity or engaging in conversation with members of the audience or staff. Do we have anyone in the room who would like to speak to this item? All right. Do we have anyone on Zoom with their hand raised?
No members of the public on Zoom.
All right. I will then close the public comment. Staff, do you have any final remarks?
Nothing from me, thank you.
Great. I'm guessing the applicant doesn't have anything else you'd like to share? Great. All right. Do we have any additional questions or comments from commissioners? All right. I will close the public comment period then. And I will now invite a motion from the commission.
I will make a motion to adopt UM 2024-0003, Lighthouse Point Vacation Owners Association, modification of coastal development permit, CDU 20-92, to legalize an existing fire suppression pump house, 2 10,000-gallon water storage tanks, and to authorize the installation of a fire alarm control panel within the existing pump house with the exterior lights to meet night sky rating and downcast, to be possibly changed out to meet that, or to certainly be screened that way.
I'll second.
Just for a point of, I noticed some looks over there. Was that in the original resolution as it was presented, or do we need to make modifications?
This is Liam. There is a condition of approval in there that just basically copies and pastes the exterior light regulations from the code. So if you'd like to go beyond that and specifically, request that the owner put a shield on the light or do something like that, then I'm open to that as well.
To the maker of the motion?
Yes, I do want to uphold downcast lighting, night sky rated, and he could just put a shield around it, so it's downcast. It's simple.
Do we need then a few minutes from staff to modify?
Yes, I think we would just want to look over the language in condition 11 and see if we need to add any additional language to there regarding downcast and shielded.
All right. Would a 10-minute break be enough to do that?
That's more than enough. I
Would
think
a
maybe 5
minute break?
minutes is sufficient.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. Let's take a 5-minute bio break and we'll come back and
Thank you.
reconsider this.
You need support.
Es un gran apoyo para nuevos padres y más aún si están en nuestra situación, que somos extranjeros, que nuestra familia y amigos, como dice Carla, están en otro país, lejos. Entonces sí viene muy bien el programa para apoyarse tanto emocional y como anímicamente y bueno, en varios aspectos del programa que nos ayuda a seguir adelante con esta nueva aventura.
Don't be afraid to take that step. Like, don't be afraid to get help, because you might think that you know what you're doing, but it's always okay to have extra support, and don't do it alone.
Give it a try. You got nothing to lose. It's free. I'm grateful that I took advantage, because it's something that has put me in touch with my child, or closer to my child and her development.
Are you prepared? We're the Office of Emergency Services, and we're committed to providing the most up-to-date and accurate information so that you and your family can stay safe during an emergency. Part of being prepared is knowing your hazards and taking proper precautions. Visit mendoready.org. On the Know Your Hazards page, you can find hazards for where you work, where you live, and where your kids go to school. On the Plan and Prepare page, you'll find a plan template. It's important to know what you're gonna do, what you're gonna take with you, how you're gonna communicate, where you're gonna go, and how to get there.
One great way to prepare is to pack a go bag. Each member of your family should have their own go bag. Visit our website, mendoready.org, to get a list of items that should be in your go bag.
Gathering and organizing important documents before an emergency is an important part of preparedness. So visit mendoready.org today, where you can find a list of important documents that you should have ready near your go bag in case you have to evacuate.
Not every emergency requires people to evacuate. An emergency kit will have supplies for you to remain self-sufficient for 72 hours. Find a list of supplies for disaster kits on our website, mendoready.org.
A prepared community is a resilient community that will recover faster from disasters. So take some time today, visit our website, get yourself prepared so you can be Mendo ready.
Personally, I think everybody could benefit from the home visiting programs.
I think that as a parent now, I'm grateful for support more than I was before.
I filled out that form not knowing what I was doing. I am very, very grateful that I did it because it's really helping me a lot.
Bueno, creo que por mi parte esperaba algo totalmente diferente, como un programa más frío, por decir algo, no tan cercano a la familia. Y a través del programa nos hemos dado cuenta que también pasa a ser una familia con nosotros porque nos apoya en los momentos difíciles o cuando nos hemos visto en dificultades.
Well, I was a new mom and I had no experience taking care of a newborn.
There isn't like a book on how to raise a kid.
We come from like a lot of family history of, drugs, violence, alcoholism, so we didn't want our daughter to experience any of that.
The thought that a parent was supposed to be loving, nurturing, supposed to be there for their kid, provide food, shelter, joy, and going in.
Do we have modified language for the commission to consider?
Deputy County Councilman Matthew Kudrowski, looking at condition 11 with the commissioner, there's no need to, she sees no need to change that language as it is. So
Okay.
I think we could just use the recommended motion that's on page 1 of the staff
All right.
report.
Is that amenable to the maker of the motion?
That is amenable to the
All
motion.
right. Great. Well then, may we have a roll call vote? Well, do we?
I seconded it.
I think we seconded. Yep.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Wiedemann? Commissioner Bavini?
Yes.
Chair Paulin?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. All right, we will now take item 6C. This is case number U 2023-0015. This is a coastal development use permit for commercial wholesaling, storage, packaging, and distribution of cannabis. I'll open the public hearing. Have there been any correspondence or telephone calls received on this?
All correspondence have been posted to the website.
Thank you. May we have staff presentation, please?
Certainly. Are you hearing me?
We hear you.
Okay. Good morning. Thank you for the project introduction. I'm Robert Simmons, staff planner for this project. This project, U 2023-0015, would allow cannabis wholesaling, storage, packaging, and distribution activities to continue on site as a separate business entity from the existing cannabis dispensary. The applicant is Nathaniel Buttrick. Site is located in the coastal zone about 3.2 miles south of Fort Bragg City Center at the southeast corner of the intersection of State Route 1 or Highway 1 and Tregoning Drive, located at 17975 North Highway 1, Fort Bragg. Parcels developed with a cannabis dispensary, which has been operating with an accessory distribution facility. Parcel is relatively flat and predominantly cleared with a tree line along the rear of the parcel. Immediately south of the parcel is the Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses, potentially a sensitive receptor. Typically, cannabis facilities are not allowed in the coastal zone, nor within 600 feet of a church or other sensitive receptor. When the dispensary was originally licensed under CFBL 2018-0047, it was determined that the Kingdom Hall may qualify as a church for the purposes of this restriction, but since the license was legalizing an existing operation, it did not represent a, quote, new impact on a sensitive receptor, end quote. The memo establishing this was included as Attachment A of the staff report. The application for that CFBL included commercial wholesaling, storage, packaging, and distribution of cannabis in conjunction with the dispensary, and the applicant has stated that no expansion in use is being proposed. These components are simply being spun off into a separate entity within the same structure. Given this, staff believes the same logic applies. The Coastal Commission also agreed with the concept of allowing the existing use to continue, incorporating the cannabis facility standards of MCC Chapter 6.36, in addition to the LCP standards for wholesaling, storage, and distribution light, but wanted to make clear that they do not support allowing new cannabis facilities in the coastal zone, where not already present, without an update to the local coastal plan specifically addressing them. Much of the recommended conditions included in the draft resolution before you are standard ones that would apply to any cannabis facility, but there are a couple staff would like to highlight. As can be seen in Figure 1, the image on the right, the project site is immediately southeast of the intersection of State Route 1 and Tregoning Drive and accessed off Tregoning. The project would contribute minimally to new sources of traffic, but the County Department of Transportation recommended improvement of the two driveway approaches onto Tregoning to commercial standards to be paved with asphalt or comparable surfacing to the existing road and specifically not concrete. This has been included in the draft resolution as Condition 11. County DOT also requested that it be made clear that any work in the county right-of-way would require an encroachment permit. This is captured in Standard Condition 4. This photo was taken by staff on August 5th, 2024, and shows the site is currently exceeding the allowable signage. All signs outlined in red are for the existing dispensary and are potentially allowable individually, but the maximum combined sign area for the parcel is 40 square feet, far less than what is there now. The Pomo Campground sign is for an off-site use down the road and may also count toward this maximum. However, as no signage is proposed as part of this project, staff do not recommend requiring immediate remediation of the excess signage, though that is something the Planning Commission could consider. Instead, staff recommends Condition 13 requiring a signage plan demonstrating compliance with the standards be submitted before any new signage is installed. Please also note the yellow air dancer shown in the image is not allowable on the parcel, and the property owner was informed by code enforcement in 2019 need to be removed. Evidently, it was taken down, but has since been put back up. Staff do recommend requiring remediation of this violation by Condition 12, which stipulates the applicant would have 30 days from the issuance of the permit to remove it and any other moving signs. Finally, staff would like to address public comment received from Michael Dominici for the Fort Bragg Trout Farm on September 13th, 2024. They have asserted there is a pipeline easement running along the middle or through the middle of the subject parcel dating to the 1930s. No such easement appears on the original parcel map from 1972 establishing the parcel, that's parcel 1 on screen, and no water or sanitation district serves the area. Any such pipeline would be a private matter between the two property owners, but the applicant is encouraged to work with their neighbors to address their concerns. Again, staff want to emphasize that no new structures are proposed as part of this project. The coastal zone establishes 6 findings which must be made in order to approve the project. These findings are included in the draft resolution before you. Staff feel that with the information presented in the staff report and this presentation, and with the recommended conditions, all 6 can be made. Projects consisting of the permitting, operation, and minor alteration of an existing facility with negligible expansion of use can be found categorically exempt from CEQA. Given all this, staff recommends the action on screen, conditionally approving the project. That concludes staff's presentation, and I remain available for questions.
Thank you very much. Questions from the commission for staff? Well, you always got something.
In state law, even if they're not recorded, they exist by right. And so the applicant is obligated to allow the stormwater to pass through their property. And so they will need to figure out a way to accommodate the needs of the property to the north that has an easement. Even if it's not recorded, that's just the way state law works with stormwater. And if you think about it, it makes sense. And then I guess I have some questions about operating conditions for this facility. I have kind of a bigger issue. I feel like it's a little bit weird to pull code from the ILUDC or from the inland zoning ordinance and apply it to this project. It's the only time I've seen the county do that. And I guess I have a question, why is that considered okay for cannabis? And then my other question has to do with kind of a bigger issue around conditional use permits and how there are no findings in the coastal zone around use permit like there are in the inland code. And if you're pulling cannabis language over, it seems like, I don't know why we don't pull over the use permit findings from the inland code to the coastal code, because frankly, it's from a planning perspective, it's a big hole in the coastal zoning ordinance not to have any findings that are required for a coastal use permit that are different from the findings that are required for a coastal development permit. Frankly, it's a little bit weird. Why have a use permit then? Because really the only difference between a coastal development use permit and a coastal development permit, it comes to us. There are no specific findings for the use permit. So I'd like you to kind of explain to me why it's okay to pull findings from the inland code for cannabis, but not for use permits, because it seems inconsistent to me. So that's kind of a big question. And I have thoughts about signage. This parcel, I drive by it a lot, has a lot of signage that is not really acceptable. And I'd like us to think about that. And then I'd also like the Planning Commission, after we hear from the public, to consider any operating conditions that might reduce the impact of this use on its neighbors.
Okay. Staff, did you get that? And maybe if you want to come back to Commissioner Jones on a point-by-point basis, if there's clarification that you need on those.
Sure. So I'll start, and I will defer to Director Krog if she wants to weigh in. But I'll start with the question about applying the inland standards. So Chapter 6.36, which establishes the standards for all cannabis facilities business licenses throughout the county, including the coastal zone, specifically references certain sections of inland chapters. Says any cannabis facility must meet these standards. So that was the main reason for pulling those in. And then aside from that, some of the standards were applied simply as guidelines to establish how we would look at these more broadly.
Director Krog, did you want to elaborate on any of that?
I think Planner Fitzsimmons answered it well, and then just noting to go to the second part about why then didn't we pull over the use permit findings as well. So there are findings required in the coastal zoning code for all coastal development permits, including coastal development use permits. They're just the same for all types of coastal development permits.
But there are no findings related to compatibility with neighboring uses, which is normally the kind of finding that you would need to have in a use permit. Like that is the standard for use permits, as well as public health, safety.
I understand, but
nuisance.
It's not included in the adopted code that was the certified LCP. There are supplemental findings. None of those are applicable in this particular circumstance. So staff, while the analysis within the staff report does speak to some of the inland zoning code sections, the actual required findings per the code are solely those in 20.532095 that are applicable to all coastal development permits. And that includes finding of consistency with the zoning district, conformity with the certified LCP, adequate utilities, access roads, a CEQA finding, addressing any impacts to archaeological or paleontological resources, and then also public services.
Yeah.
The findings are on screen if I'm still screen sharing.
Thank you. Yes.
So I would just like to encourage, I know an LCP amendment is a big deal, but really a use permit should be separate from a coastal development permit because they really are looking at different things, and combining them into one and having no findings that are specific to a use permit is problematic from just a planning perspective. And the purpose of a use permit is to hold uses that are generally not considered compatible with neighboring uses to a higher level of standard regarding compatibility. And you're a little bit hogtied yourself. And I'm not speaking about this particular project or any project, just it's just a hole in the code that would be good to fix.
Well, I think certainly with the LCP update that's currently in process, that's something we'll certainly be looking at, and so understand the concern.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Any other clarification, Commissioner Jones, on your?
No, sorry for the long one.
Oh, it's okay. Commissioner Wiedemann?
I had a question with, on staff report, page PC7, the highlighted signs. We understand the yellow air sign has to go. What are we doing with these 5 signs that are 5 yellow boxes that are circled? Can I have the planner answer that for me?
Sure. So staff's recommendation is, although there are currently, or at least at the time this image was taken, there's an excess amount of signs on the parcel, as none of these are for the proposed use and the proposed use isn't requesting any new signs. Staff wasn't recommending that remediation of the excess signs be tied as a condition to this permit. However, there's nothing stopping the Planning Commission from doing that if the Planning Commission wants to.
And just for clarification, they should be limited to 40 square feet. Is that correct? And they are in excess of that at the current time?
There are some exceptions where you can have more in certain circumstances, but yes, it appears 40 square feet would be the maximum that would apply here.
Do we know approximately how many square feet of signage there is at the time right now?
I don't have that number in front of me, but I'm quite confident that it's over 40 square feet.
And if I may, I believe the applicant will be available on the line as well. And I know that I believe I saw some correspondence where they were seeking to try to address any concerns surrounding signage as well associated with the property.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Wiedemann, did you have any other questions?
None at this time.
All right. Commissioner Babini?
I did not have any questions. My previous hat as chief planner for the cannabis department here in Mendocino County, I definitely reviewed quite a few of these similar type projects, not however in the coastal zone, since the majority of all cannabis was more inland. I did do a little walking tour via Google Maps here just around the site, and when looking at some of these businesses, because it is off of Highway 1, I feel like as far as location wise, having it not off of a private road, having it with highway access does make this more of an ideal space for this business versus some others that we have seen in the past. And I guess that's just my 2 cents as far as compatibility with the surrounding uses. It seems like looking at it aerially, the majority of the neighboring parcels, at least on the frontage of the highway, are other businesses and not residential uses.
All right, thank you. I don't have any questions for staff right now, so I think I would at this point invite the applicant to speak on this item.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Amazing. Hey, Nathaniel Buttrick here. I appreciate everybody getting together and taking the time to discuss this. I just wanted to make a couple quick comments. One, that We have been in operation here for, I believe, 6 years at this point. It was 2018 when we originally got our distribution license, both locally and at the state level, because of the nature of the coastal zone. It was, Jude and I have been partners. It was tied together with a pre-existing operation on the coast. And so that's why we were able to get the permit. Nothing that we've been doing over the last 6 years will change. There was no new building, no new signage, nothing new to our operation. So getting this CDP pushed through would allow us to separate the entities between the retail and the distribution. Right now, they're both under one entity, which is North Coast Wellbeing, and the goal is to separate those two. We can't have that without the local approval, but the nature of everything we've been doing won't be any different. We have made a good practice with just having good relationships with all of our neighbors. We've never had any issues or complaints. We've had Fort Bragg, mayor, and some people from, I guess, from their council to come over because they were looking to write regulations in Fort Bragg and wanted to look at a distribution facility. One of the first things they mentioned when they pulled up is that they couldn't smell anything, and they were surprised that that's actually the nature of what we were doing. The previous use of this facility was, dirt cheap. So there was soil trucks coming in and dropping off soil. There's CO2 tanks getting dropped off, and there was a lot more traffic. So I do feel like the nature of what we've been doing over the last 6 years has been a little lighter. And then as far as the signs go, the signs are attached to the retail, not the distribution, but I'm definitely one for being compliant and making sure that we all have a level playing field out on the coast as far as signage goes. And one of the things I talked to Jude about was to pull down the majority of the signs that were out there. And it seemed like we had 30 days to do that. Like the air guy or person that's out there and some of the other signs, they're really easy to take down. The sign that is on the highway is 40 feet. So that would be the main sign that would stay. And then, Jude and I could take down all the other signs. But I think the main thing was just wanting to stress that nothing has changed. The nature of our operation won't change. If we don't get the CDP, then the nature of our operation will still continue. It will just be under North Coast Wellbeing, and we'll be waiting for a day when there's language in the coastal zone for us to apply for our own license. I do feel like cultivation was one of the main things that slowed down this process in the coastal zone, because obviously cultivating on the coast is something that is could be a big issue. And there wasn't really anybody trying to get a distribution license on the coast. I think we are an anomaly and the only ones. So I would love to answer any questions if anybody has any for me. And yeah, thanks for taking the time to listen to me.
Thank you. Any questions from commissioners for the applicant? Commissioner Jones.
I was muted, sorry. I'd love to hear what your hours of operation are.
Yeah, our hours of operation right now is it's 9 to 4, basically. 9 to 4 is the hours of our operation. Sometimes 10 o'clock, but yeah, 9 to 4.
Okay, and then my other question is your sort of informal parking area that's next to the drainage ditch where all the alder trees are.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you're aware, but that's actually county property because that's the right of way for Trigoning Avenue. And I guess I have a question for staff, if that was looked at all, and also just, I recognize it's a drainage ditch, but it just does raise a little bit of issues because the cars are really parked right up next to the ditch, and it looks like part of the parking area is eroding into the ditch. And if that was looked at all as part of this use permit, because there are quite a number of vehicles. I'm looking here on the Google Earth Street View. And I guess that's not a question for the applicant, but maybe staff could answer that later.
Yeah, if staff could have a few minutes to look into that before getting back to you, I'd appreciate it.
Any other questions, Commissioner Jones, for the applicant?
No, sorry.
Commissioner Wiedemann, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Yes, I'm just going to reiterate, you stated, I believe, that you're going to take down all the other signs and keep your one sign, the larger sign. Is that correct, or you're going to what we're trying to do is just clean up the signage.
Yeah, absolutely. That is exactly what we are going to do. We really want this to go through, and there's nothing on our side that we aren't willing to do. So that was something that Jude and I discussed. So yes, we are on the same page there. The only sign that would be left would be the one that's on the highway that is compliant.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Including
Yeah.
the sign that's currently affixed to the building itself?
I guess you're talking about the larger dragonfly sign?
Yes.
Yeah, at the end of the day, if that is something that we're not allowed to do, I don't think that there's any question there. So that was discussed. If there's something I'm missing and we are allowed to, that's a really wonderful sign just because it's historic and I think it's beautiful. But that is a plan to pull that down because it seems like the code is the code.
Go ahead. We're looking at some images of those signs right now. Commissioner Wiedemann, did you have any questions or proposals for the applicant on which signs you would be willing to allow to remain?
Well, he's going to leave the one large sign. But
Yeah.
I understood him to say by that you see it from the road, I imagine.
I think also we could probably use this under discussion from planning commissioners after the hearing.
Yeah. Okay, we can discuss this. All right. Commissioner Babini, do you have any questions for the applicant?
I have nothing for Mr. Buttrick.
Great. I don't have any questions for the applicant either. Thank you, Mr. Buttrick, for your time.
Thank you, guys.
Mr. Fitzsimmons, did you have a comment you'd like to make at this point?
Yeah, just to follow up on Commissioner Wiedemann's concern, or sorry, the commission's concern. Right-of-way issues are generally Department of Transportation questions. Planning staff defers to them, and they didn't raise a concern about the current parking locations, so it wasn't examined further than that.
Okay, thank you. At this point, then, I will invite public comment. We'll now hear public comment on this item. The commission will start with public comment in the room and then hear from telecommenters who are connected virtually via Zoom. For those in the room, when you're called to speak, please state your name for the record. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. Speakers are asked to please address their comments to the meeting chair and to refrain from using profanity and engaging in conversation with members of the audience or staff. And that's true for people in the room and on Zoom. So do we have anyone in the room who'd like to speak to this item? Please, one at a time, come forward, speak your name for the record, and then you have 3 minutes.
Good morning. My name is Lyle Layton with the Fort Bragg Congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses. And, we do have some concerns being about 30 feet away from their facility. And we have had some odor issues since they moved there in 2018. So we would like some reassurance that if odor issues get worse, there is some avenue that we have to relieve those odor issues. And I'm still a little bit concerned or confused with regard to the sensitive receptor regulations, because our facility, our Kingdom Hall, has been there since 1970. We've been there over 50 years, and just not quite sure when that sensitive receptor regulation became a part of the cannabis regulations. But it seems like that we shouldn't have, that maybe we shouldn't even have a facility within the 600 feet today, because we were there so long ago that maybe something was overlooked when the original cannabis facility was approved there just to the south of our facility. Appreciate the staff time. Sandy over in Fort Bragg was very helpful, and I've emailed Rob a couple of times, and your staff has been very, very helpful, and we just appreciate being able to discuss our concerns.
Thank you very much.
My name is Armando Quevedo, also from Fort Bragg Congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses. And thank you for the privilege to be able to respond to this permit. It's not so much the permit that we object to. It is, like Lyle said, the odor. But some other things also that we have talked, that has been mentioned, water drainage on the highway, their culvert is plugged. We just replaced our culvert last year, and we did offer them to help them out, that they should get theirs done, because our work is going to be for naught. It's going to just get plugged up because theirs not working along the Highway 1 there. That was one problem. And you've talked about the lights, how bright they are. They are, and their signs are large. Our lights are so dim, and we're going by what was allowed to us at the time, and we haven't changed that at all. And our size is different. We can't even see when you're approaching, coming from the north heading south, our entrance. It's so hard to get in there because there's a lot of light from the first business, and it's just, we have no light. And anyway, that is a concern. The culvert, the light, and the odor problem. And that basically, that's our main concern. So thank you very much for hearing us.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room wishing to speak on this item? All right. Do we have any members of the public on Zoom with a hand raised?
There are no members of the public on Zoom.
All right. I will then close the public comment period. Do we have any final remarks from staff?
Nope.
Okay. Any final remarks from the applicant?
Yeah, hey guys. I just wanted to, if you can hear me still?
We can, yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to my neighbors next door and reassure them that I am absolutely open to sitting down with them and having a conversation, which I would really love to have, about ways that I can make sure that they're not having any issues. I do believe that there sometimes is maybe a misunderstanding between the smell that's coming from people consuming versus the actual facility. I think that there may be I think there's consumption up front. And so we have really powerful can fans, carbon filters in the facility itself. We can install another one. But I share the same, I don't want anybody to ever smell anything. And I'm pretty sure that I can work with Nextdoor to make sure that that doesn't happen. And yeah, I guess I just wanted to echo that I respect what they're saying, and I would love to work together to make sure that they're feeling like they have great neighbors beside them.
Is on-site consumption permitted at your location?
You know, that'd be a question, but I believe, yes, that is a license that is attached to the retail, not distribution, but it's attached to the retail up front.
Yep, that's exactly what I was going to say, is that it's connected to the retail facility that's at the front of this property, not connected with the distribution component that we're discussing as part of this use permit.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question about
Please.
consumption? Is consumption allowed inside the building or outside the building or both?
You know, I don't know that answer, but in my facility, it's not allowed, period. So, I mean, I have surprise, you know, the DCC, the Department of Cannabis Control, they do surprise visits. They were here a couple weeks ago. They just knock on the door and come in. And yeah, so we're, you know, it's a high accountability here. So there's absolutely no smoking allowed in my facility. Yeah. But the retail is a different story. And I'm not honestly sure how that all works. But again, I have a huge amount of love and respect for Jude, and I'm always down to help make sure that we mitigate any issues that may be coming up. And I'm glad to hear these things, because if I didn't hear them, I wouldn't necessarily know that they were happening.
Thank you.
So I have a question, a procedural question for staff. Since this is a use permit on a single property and the uses are related to each other, does that mean by definition we cannot I guess I'm a little frustrated because it sounds like staff is saying we can only condition the use that's in front of us, not the property as a whole. Can you provide clarification?
Well, so since the request that's in front of you is solely to address the wholesaling, storage, and distribution and not about the dispensary component, I think conditions that you're applying on this particular permit would be focused on the activity that's being requested and not necessarily other activities that may be occurring elsewhere. So like similarly, if we think about, say, a property that has like a strip mall type of development where you may have multiple uses operating, you would not necessarily be addressing operation of a different use within that same complex if you're looking at just a use permit for this particular activity. So I don't know if there's anything else, Council, if you want to add anything to. No? Okay.
Did that answer your question, Commissioner Jones?
It did.
Okay. Commissioner Babini?
I just had a question maybe for staff, because the neighbors brought up the front drainage with where the culverts are. Because it's adjacent to Highway 1, is that the property owner's responsibility or the, okay. I just wasn't clear on whether or not that, because it abuts the highway. I wasn't sure if that was DOT.
All driveway entrances, the culverts are owned by the property owners and they have to maintain them.
Okay. I'm not seeing a culvert at the driveway. The only one I was seeing was either crossing, what is it, Kergart?
If I may, I think the culvert that's being referred to is possibly from an older encroachment that may have used to previously exist that's not actually utilized by the business at this time, as far as I can tell from images.
Okay. I see that one too, so that makes sense. I just wasn't quite clear on if it was a DOT thing or a property owner thing, so thank you for clarifying.
And if I may, Chair, I believe Staff Planner Fitzsimmons has some comments to add as well.
Okay, great.
To follow up on the question about on-site consumption, again, that is specifically for the dispensary, not for the use referred to by this permit. But according per the definitions of Mendocino County Code Chapter 20.243, which are incorporated by reference in section 6.36.010, which applies throughout the county. On-site consumption is allowed in conjunction with the dispensary license in outdoor areas only, such as patios or decks.
Thank you. All right. I think just to be on it, we still are on the applicant's final remarks. Any other questions for the applicant while we still have them on the line? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Buttrick. All right. I will close the public hearing now and the matters before the commission. Do we have any discussion?
I'd like to discuss.
Please.
I'd like to add a couple of special conditions and modify special condition 13. For 13, I'd like to require that all signage on the site be brought up to compliance with MCC Chapter 20.476. And specifically, they have the pop-up little
air dancer,
and then they also have a number of flag things, what you call those, banners, I guess they're called banners, which don't appear on the Google drawing, and those banners are also considered signage, so those would need to go as well. So that's one condition I'd like to craft, and if we need to take a break, I'm happy to help work on that. I would like to have a condition that explicitly states that there'll be no consumption on site associated with this use, and that all lights on the property must be downcast and shielded. I do feel like when you're in a situation where there are current violations of the zoning ordinance, those must be addressed before a new conditional use permit is approved, regardless of whether those violations are related to that use. And so I see the lack of downcast and shielded lights being a problem. That's a violation of the current code. And then I'd also like to see a special condition added that either the culvert that's been abandoned be removed or be cleared, preferably removed, because it's not operational and you're just eliminating a long-term problem rather than later it will get plugged again. Those are my suggestions. Comment on
Director Krog, did you get that, and did you have any questions for the maker of that revision?
I don't think so. I just will note that I think if the commission supports wanting to add conditions about downcast and shielded lighting, I think we'll just have to make sure, because there's certain requirements from the California Department of Cannabis Control about security that have to be met by facilities. So I don't want to put the applicant in a scenario that they can't comply with the requirements for security lighting as well.
You can comply with both of those. It's not hard to do.
All right, thank you.
But I agree.
And just regarding the lighting, the DCC actually has verbiage related to night skies ordinance as well.
And just to clarify for the maker of the recommendations of changes, for the signage, basically you're saying that the signage would need to comply with current regulations around how much signage is related, but you're not particularly making any reference to any signs whatsoever, as long as it's within the minimum square footage.
Yeah, I don't want to get in a situation of deciding which sign they should keep or leave. That's kind of up to them. I just want to make sure that their signage program complies with the ordinance as a whole, and right now it definitely does not.
Great. Thank you. Commissioner Wiedemann.
Continuing on the signage, you know, it's interesting because some of that signage is probably for the permitted use of the store, right? The existing facility. So, and we're not touching that, I guess.
It's not in compliance.
But if we can touch that and it's not in compliance, why can't we touch other things that are dealing with, let's say, nuisance, right? In the sense of we have applicants, there's a nuisance. We don't know where it comes from that lot.
So if I may, I think my comment was more so about that the dispensary use, the use of the site as a dispensary is not part of this use permit that's in front of the commission. It's existing. It's been existing. It's properly licensed. They're not asking to change any of their operations associated with the dispensary. So really, it's not appropriate to be adding or opening up the conversation around how the dispensary operates.
Right. So therefore, the dispensary at this time, their signage is appropriate. It's not part of these 5 red line box. That's all about the new applicant.
The signage includes, actually the signage that's present is primarily associated with the dispensary. However, it's located on the parcel as a whole. So our signage regulations are specific to properties as a whole, and that's why we're discussing that signage component.
Okay.
Not related to
it's not.
All right. Anything else, Commissioner Wiedemann?
Not at this time.
Okay. Commissioner Babini?
I definitely think if we're going to put in any comment related to the front drainage along Highway 1, I don't want to restrict them in saying you must take it out, but I think saying that, you know, drainage must be allowed to flow through that frontage efficiently, regardless of how they choose to do that. I think that we can put that language in there.
Yeah, I didn't mean to imply that they would have to take it out, just that long term that's obviously preferable, and frankly it'd probably be cheaper for them.
Mm-hmm. The notes that I have for direction to staff is to look at adding a condition regarding that the abandoned culvert either be removed or kept clear.
Perfect. Nothing further for me.
Okay, great. Well, then I imagine we might need a few minutes for staff to make revisions to the conditions for approval for presentation to the board.
Deputy County Counsel Matthew Gadrowski, I'd say no less than 20 minutes.
Okay. Is 20 minutes enough?
I think we'd start with 20 minutes, and if we have to get updated at that point, we will.
All right. It is 10:45. We'll come back at 11:05 for consideration.
Entonces ahorita lo que tenemos es aprovecharla, quererla y cuidarla lo más que se pueda.
Creo que a todos nos preocupa la primera vez que nos dicen que vamos a ser padres.
When we started the program, my daughter was about 3 months, and my daughter's 22 months now. Something I love about my child, that she's healthy, she's happy, she knows that she's cared for and loved. Those are some of the things that I wanted to make sure that she had, and she has them.
I'm happy today with my daughter. She's the greatest thing in my life, and I'm glad to wake up and see her, and everything I do it for her.
Sí, bueno, yo también vengo de una familia separada. Creo que por eso también me motiva a estar más presente con él, de quizás también estar de la forma quizás que yo no la tuve para Máximo. Y también comprender que el padre no solo es el que pone los límites y las reglas, sino que también está ahí para hablar, acompañar, regalonear, jugar, cosas lindas también, no solo ser el guía para el niño, sino que también un compañero de vida.
I was more of a elated and thankful because for 3 months I was in baby land, and when you're in baby world, you're just kind of flying by the seat of your pants and hoping you know that you're just supportive in the ways that you can be supportive.
Pero pues aquí pues ya los enseñan un poquito más cosas que uno no sabía, cómo cuidarla, cómo desarrollarla, cómo educarla, y pues es algo bien porque pues cosas que yo no sabía, pues ya usted nos las dijo y todo como consejos, y pues muchas cosas que se aprendieron.
Bueno, creo que por mi parte esperaba algo totalmente diferente, como un programa más frío, por decir algo, no tan cercano a la familia, sino más bien un programa de Estado programado para la ayuda solamente. Y a través del programa nos hemos dado cuenta que también pasa a ser una familia con nosotros, porque nos apoya en los momentos difíciles o cuando nos hemos visto en dificultades. Siempre nos hemos podido apoyar en Gaby a través de su programa. Encuentro que ha sido fundamental el apoyo.
You know, my experience has been nothing but positive. Annette has been wonderful. She's on time. She lets me know if there's going to be any changes in the schedule.
Not only did we get the assistance with this program, but we also made a really good friend. I'm happy to call Gabby our friend.
I still feel the challenge of being a parent now in today's world is immense. I think that you need support.
Es un gran apoyo para nuevos padres, y más aún si están en nuestra situación, que somos extranjeros, que nuestra familia y amigos, como dice Carla, están en otro país, lejos. Entonces sí, viene muy bien el programa para apoyarse tanto emocional y como anímicamente, y bueno, en varios aspectos del programa que nos ayuda a seguir adelante con esta nueva aventura.
Don't be afraid to take that step. Like, don't be afraid to get help, because you might think that you know what you're doing, but it's always okay to have extra support, and don't do it alone.
Give it a try. You got nothing to lose. It's free. I'm grateful that I took advantage, because it's something that has put me in touch with my child, or closer to my child and her development.
Are you prepared? We're the Office of Emergency Services, and we're committed to providing the most up-to-date and accurate information so that you and your family can stay safe during an emergency. Part of being prepared is knowing your hazards and taking proper precautions. Visit mendoready.org. On the Know Your Hazards page, you can find hazards for where you work, where you live, and where your kids go to school. On the Plan and Prepare page, you'll find a plan template. It's important to know what you're going to do, what you're going to take with you, how you're going to communicate, where you're going to go, and how to get there.
One great way to prepare is to pack a go bag. Each member of your family should have their own go bag. Visit our website, mendoready.org, to get a list of items that should be in your go bag.
Gathering and organizing important documents before an emergency is an important part of preparedness. So visit mendoready.org today, where you can find a list of important documents that you should have ready near your go bag in case you have to evacuate.
Not every emergency requires people to evacuate. An emergency kit will have supplies for you to remain self-sufficient for 72 hours. Find a list of supplies for disaster kits on our website, mendoready.org.
A prepared community is a resilient community that will recover faster from disasters. So take some time today, visit our website, get yourself prepared so you can be Mendo ready.
Personally, I think everybody could benefit from the home visiting programs.
I think that as a parent now, I'm grateful for support more than I was before.
I filled out that form not knowing what I was doing. I am very, very grateful that I did it because it's really helping me a lot.
Bueno, creo que por mi parte esperaba algo totalmente diferente, como un programa más frío, por decir algo, no tan cercano a la familia. Y a través del programa nos hemos dado cuenta que también pasa a ser una familia con nosotros porque nos apoya en los momentos difíciles o cuando nos hemos visto en dificultades.
Well, I was a new mom and I had no experience taking care of a newborn.
There isn't like a book on how to raise a kid.
We come from like a lot of family history of, drugs, violence, alcoholism, so we didn't want our daughter to experience any of that.
The thought that a parent was supposed to be loving, nurturing, supposed to be there for their kid, provide food, shelter, joy, and going in, becoming a parent for her, I had no clue how to provide that.
Cómo pensar educarla, cómo educar a un hijo porque pues nosotros nunca, es la primera vez que íbamos a ser padres.
What I think parents should know about home visiting is that you can learn a lot of new things and tips and tricks, how to take care of the baby and what to do, and if you're, stuck in a routine and everything being monotonous, like they give you new resources and new tools how to handle parenthood.
It was nice to have them kind of guiding me. Even though I was not a first-time mom, I felt like a first-time mom.
It totally blew my mind over time. So much information that I had no idea about. She was straightforward when, teaching me this stuff and answered any of my questions. Just a really positive experience.
What I think that parents could benefit with the program is just having someone here for you, especially for first-time parents. It can be very isolating and it can be very lonely, and having the home visitor changes that and it feels very good.
For me, having a home visitor is like having a second mom there.
A lot has changed. I'm definitely more knowledgeable taking care of her, and I know that anytime I need advice or help from somebody, I can just call her.
It's just that little positive nudge to, hey, I'm noticing something, let's find a way how to change it. And she's like, you know what, Amanda, let's pick you up, dust you off, and let's go over to, see about either getting your driver's license or seeing about, going to college, see if we can start something for you.
It's totally worth it. Like, even if you're on the fence at first, you don't feel like having a stranger coming in your house and teaching you about your little one, do it anyway. You get the help that you need. You get professional advice on things you may not know about your child. And the fact that the program has no fees or anything, it's all totally free, is fantastic.
Yo creo que si conozco a alguien que está próxima a ser mamá, lo primero que haría sería recomendarle el programa, porque te entrega mucho apoyo, mucha información y más que nada como apoyo emocional, una guía, te da una visión diferente de cómo es ser papá aquí, quizás en este país.
Y así pues es un bonito programa, porque pues es buena persona la señora y los ha atendido muy bien.
Pensé que nada más iba a ser un programa de orientación quizás para los nuevos padres, pero creo que nos llevamos una linda sorpresa porque Gaby es una persona muy cercana a nosotros, es como parte de nuestra familia, siempre ha estado dispuesta a ayudarnos y a escucharnos con nuestras dudas sobre la paternidad, y en nuestro caso, que estamos solos en este país, ha sido como de mucha ayuda.
Es un gran apoyo para nuevos padres, y más aún si están en nuestra situación, que somos extranjeros, que nuestra familia y amigos, como dice Carla, están en otro país, lejos. Entonces sí, viene muy bien el programa para apoyarse tanto emocional y como anímicamente, y bueno, en varios aspectos del programa que nos ayuda a seguir adelante con esta nueva aventura.
Te ayuda como a ver los distintos recursos que tiene la comunidad para nuevos papás, entonces creo que es de gran ayuda.
No queda mucho que agregar, pero lo veo de la misma forma.
Que hemos aprendido algunas cosas aquí y pues los han ayudado, como este programa los ha ayudado para seguir creciendo a la bebé, como con buenos consejos y así.
Sí, y creo que también ha sido muy importante el tema de apoyarnos con el libro y saber qué actividades hacer con Máximo de acuerdo a su edad, cómo estimularlo, cómo cuidarlo de los peligros de la casa, como cosas que uno como papá nuevo no conoce, claro.
Pues a mí me gustaría que lo siguiéramos visitando aquí en la biblioteca de Covelo. Está tranquilo y muy bonito aquí.
Cuando no nos podemos reunir, nos comunicamos por Zoom o una llamada telefónica o por texto.
Donde nos visite, porque ha sido nuestra casa, a veces nosotros vamos a Willits y puede ser en el parque. Gaby llega, hacemos un resumen de cómo ha ido nuestra semana o qué hemos hecho de nuevo, cómo va el trabajo. Luego hacemos las actividades del libro, vemos si podemos hacer un juguetito nuevo para Máximo, a veces ella lo evalúa, cómo está su sentido motriz, qué ha aprendido de nuevo, nuevas palabras, y jugamos un ratito y conversamos.
A mí personalmente también me ayudó mucho a obtener mi licencia a conducir, que era un objetivo que teníamos en cuanto a la familia, sí, para poder estar tranquilos, así que encuentro que ha sido fundamental el apoyo.
El objetivo del programa es que las familias estén bien, y que las familias estén bien significa niños felices, niños sanos, y eso en un futuro es adultos sanos y un mundo mejor. Entonces está bueno.
she has made me feel like I'm important and I can go at my own pace, and that's all you need sometimes when you're feeling like you got nobody.
It was helpful to have somebody there kind of holding my hand and guiding me and letting me know this is kind of the normal. It felt like I was becoming a new mom, so it was very interesting and helpful, very, very helpful.
You know, there was that self-conscious part of me, like, will I be accepted even though I'm not perfect?
What I like the most is that she really listens.
The support that she gives me is special because she does it with love, and it's just natural, you know. That's all I could say. It just feels like somebody that I've known since I was little.
You know, I said to Jeanette, Jeanette, you're supposed to be with me for 5 years. Jeanette said, yeah, I know, I'm going to be with you guys for 5 years. That's when I said, well, I guess I can trust her. She's going to be with us for 5 years.
Yo creo que quizás pasó como a la segunda visita o algo así, como que ya nos presentamos formalmente. Y luego ya creo que en la segunda visita estaba como todo más tranquilo, como muy, como que el ambiente era muy familiar. Entonces yo me sentí muy cómoda.
Felt like she cared for Sparrow too, and Sparrow really enjoyed it. Yeah, she knew when Gabby came we were going to be making something or learning something, and she'd instantly start digging through Gabby's bags to find out what activity we were going to do.
Not only did we get the assistance with this program, but we also made a really good friend. I'm happy to call Gabby our friend.
I think the relationship that we've built has been just, she's a part of the family.
Are you prepared? We're the Office of Emergency Services, and we're committed to providing the most up-to-date and accurate information so that you and your family can stay safe during an emergency. Visit MendoReady.org. It's our one-stop shop for emergency information. You can sign up for emergency alerts, find your pre-established evacuation zone on our current emergencies map, and find hazard and preparedness information.
Imagine you're faced with a disaster such as a wildfire and you're ordered to evacuate. I'll bet you wish you had more time in that moment. Now's your chance to buy yourself that time. Sign up for Nixle and Mendo Alerts
Take a look at
on our
the
website.
red line version of the conditions, please, and the resolution, I suppose.
All right, good morning, Commissioners. Russ Ford, Senior Planner, sharing a red line edit version. So just to go through those quickly, Condition 13, addressing the signage, has been amended to include all existing signage on the parcel must be brought into compliance with said regulations prior to issuance of a cannabis facilities business license. Condition 14 has been added to address the exterior lighting. Prior to issuance of the cannabis facilities business license, all external lighting shall be shielded and downcast to prohibit light from being cast beyond the property boundaries. Outdoor lighting shall be turned off by 10 p.m. in the evenings and not be turned back on until the following day after 6 a.m. in the morning. 24-hour security lighting would be exempt from this time requirement. However, any exterior security lighting serving the use shall utilize motion-censored activation to the extent allowable by state laws and regulations. Condition 15 has been added to read, no on-site consumption of cannabis shall be permitted in conjunction with the use allowed for by this permit. And condition 16 has been added to read, the existing culvert located along State Route 1 should be kept clear of debris. With that. Shall be kept clear of debris. And we're ready for further direction.
Commissioner Jones, those.
Did bring up with staff during break the issue of the parking that is located along kind of a wetland drainage ditch that has lots of alder trees in it. And that's also within the county's property, not within the property owner's property. And since the property owner themselves have quite a big parcel, I'm wondering if we could just add a special condition that requires that that they use their on-site facility for their parking. That they use their parcel for their parking.
I have a question. Does that mean that that space is public access, that parking area?
My concern is not so much about the parking as it is that it encroaches on the wetland, and that wasn't analyzed as part of the conditional coastal use permit. And generally, you're not allowed to have anything within 50 feet of a wetland. And we don't know if this qualifies as a wetland or not. And so rather than have that hanging out there as an issue, just clean it up by adding a special condition that requires them to park on their parcel.
Director Krog, did you have response to that?
I was just going to comment. I think, you know, like, I don't know that staff can say definitively that that parking is not on their parcel, because the way that our mapping works between the parcel data and then the base map that appears underneath the aerial imagery, there's actually a margin of error associated with it. So you can't use the lines shown from the parcel data with the aerial imagery as being exact boundaries of where a property boundary may be located in relation to that. So, you know, I think if this is the desire of the commission to add a condition similar to that, then I would just, I think if we state that parking shall be limited to the property would be a very simple addition to make.
And then if it is on their parcel, then we wouldn't necessarily worry about it. I mean, the road width here on the map is quite wide, and the road itself takes up less than half of it. So it's either on this parcel or on the northern parcel. And like you said, you don't necessarily know the answer to that. Though the southern parcel line seems to somewhat comply with the different buildings and the parking for the Jehovah's property. So if anything, I think the parcel map might be adjusted too far north.
Mm-hmm. So I think if Russ, I would just add a condition 17 saying that parking shall be limited to the property.
Commissioner Jones, does that meet your concerns about encroachment into that ditch?
It absolutely does, and I don't want to be picky overly, but it's just like there was no analysis done of it, whether it's a wetland or not, and usually when you have alder trees, that's considered a wetland.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to note on the, just for your concerns on condition 14, Commissioner Jones, it does state that they'll be on motion sensing light, but it does not say that those security lights are downcast or shielded. Do those, is that?
It does actually.
Oh, it does.
Very first sentence.
Oh, okay.
Says that.
Okay, great. Deputy County Counsel?
Deputy County Counsel Matthew Godrowski, I was going to make that point, but if there's time after this discussion to bring the applicant back in for discussion, okay. I recommend that.
Great. Commissioner Wiedemann.
On the item 16, the culvert, the existing culvert located along State Route 1 shall be kept clear of debris. My issue with that wording is that culvert might not be sized correctly for what's taking place, and therefore I think it needs to be more than just kept clear of debris. It needs to what I'm trying to say is it needs to be adequate for the flow.
So if I may, I think the reason that staff did not include about abandoning or removing the culvert is that those potential impacts associated with that have not been analyzed as part of this permit. It wasn't part of the request. It hasn't been a requirement from any resource agency for which the project was referred to. So, you know, I think keeping it clear of debris, it will just maintain the flow that should be happening through that area. Presumably that when that culvert was sized and the driveway installed, that was determined to be sufficient at that time. If the applicant does decide that they wish to remove that culvert or change the sizing, there is going to have to be likely a separate discussion with staff about any permitting that may be required for that, and then also determining appropriate sizing and any additional any input from Caltrans or any other entity such as that. So I'd be concerned with just saying you need to upsize the culvert too, because there's a series of impacts that could be associated with that which have not been analyzed as part of this permit.
The other problem that you have is, you know, that's a pretty big encroachment, and the culvert's probably pretty old, and it may not be cleanable. It may have collapsed, so That's
That's often the case on a lot of these old culverts. They rust out. So that's why, so maybe,
And I will say so from the county. But just, I think since we don't know, I'm hesitant to include in there stating that it should be replaced or removed.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments on the red line version before I go back to the applicant? Okay. Do we still have the applicant on the line? Would you like to respond to any of the proposed revisions?
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. When I originally read, maybe I was misreading, but it seemed like there was something in the language that said that we, upon giving the permit, that we had to remove all signage within 30 days. So I thought that was something that was already in there, but maybe I was misreading something. I do like the idea of having to shore these things up within a 30-day period as opposed to needing to do this stuff to get the permit. But, just looking at it, signage would take an hour, maybe a couple hours. The lighting is something that we could get right on. I like the fact that we can still keep motion sensors going. There is an element of security that we are trying to keep. I want to find the balance of making sure that we're all good neighbors and the light's not shining on the Jehovah's Witness, and we're also making sure that people aren't coming onto the property at night. So as long as they can be triggered by motion, I do need to look into the state regs. I'm assuming that that's probably fine. And as far as the on-site consumption, that is already understood, and that's not allowed per state regs. You can't have a distribution license and allow consumption. That is on the retail side. And the culvert is it is plugged, and when it was during the winter, we weren't able to unplug it, but it is an operating, working culvert. It was just challenging to remove the dirt on the inside of it that had gathered up while the water was settled. But that is a working culvert, and it was Department of Transportation that came out and they did some of the road work. So that pertains to the culvert. As far as the parking goes, I do not know definitively, but what I've been told is that parking area is actually on the parcel of the KOA campground. And I don't know if that's a real thing, but that's what I've been told. And so the owners of this facility and the owners of the KOA have worked together, that'd be Tracy Wolfson and Scott Zarambi at the time, to utilize that space. And that space has been utilized the entire time that Dirt Cheap has been operating. It's just been since we've been here that we've utilized it for parking cars over there. And when we do park cars over there, we can't fit more than 4 cars at a time. And that is what we have out in the parking lot right now. If we can't have the cars there, that's fine. I can work my way around that. So as far as signage, that's great. I can do that. As far as the lighting, that's great. I can do that. My understanding is the culvert is operational. We will not consume, and we cannot consume already via state regs. And the parking, if it is limited to within the parcel boundaries, I wonder how that would impact if that is actually on the KOA's, or not the KOA, I'm sorry, the Pomo's campground parcel. How would that work if they're saying we can be there? But according to this, we wouldn't be able to be there because it's not on our parcel. And again, I would have to ask Tracy Wolfson, and I think we'd have to do some more digging to figure out what that piece of land is sitting on. But I'm totally flexible and open to do whatever works.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Any further discussion from the commission? All right, I'll entertain a motion then.
Since this is my district, I'll go ahead and so by resolution, the Planning Commission finds the project to be categorically exempt from CEQA and grant the Coastal Development Use Permit 2023-15 for the project as proposed by the applicant based on the facts and findings and subject to the special conditions of approval in the staff report and the special conditions of approval that were added at the hearing.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Bradini?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Wiedemann? And Chair Pollan?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right. Thank you very much for everyone on that item. All right, moving along. Item 6D. This is case number U 2019-0006, Redwood Coast Wellness Center. This is the vacation of an adoption of the resolution of Planning Commission 2024-0010 for U 2029-0006, the Redwood Coast Wellness Center, which adopted a mitigative negative declaration and a mitigation and monitoring program and granted a coastal development use permit for an open pavilion with a commercial kitchen, storage facilities, restrooms, and a septic system for effluent disposal, concrete sidewalk all around, accessible parking space, improved gravel driveway and gravel parking area, pump house with well, installed 2 5,000-gallon water storage tanks, electrical pole, and underground service. We're undoing all the work we did last week. May I have a staff presentation, please?
Good morning, Commissioners. Keith Dronendijk, planner. I'm going to read into the record the memo that was prepared for this. During the afternoon of September 5th, 2024, after the Planning Commission hearing that day concluded, department staff received additional comments from the State Water Resources Control Board regarding this case. These comments also stated that according to the State Clearinghouse, the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, review period for this project only concluded on September 6th, 2024. In subsequently reviewing its files and submissions for this project, staff input an incorrect review period into CEQAnet that only ended on September 6th. As such, the project was improperly noticed for September 5th. With the required review period not complete, the Commission lacked the authority as of that date to adopt a mitigated negative declaration or make its required findings. The most appropriate way to resolve this infirmity is to vacate the resolution adopted on September 5th and to renotice the project for a future Planning Commission meeting, likely in November. Staff has discussed this issue with the applicant, and the applicant supports this course of action. It is recommended that the Planning Commission adopt a motion vacating the adoption of Resolution PC_2024-0010 for Use Permit U 2019-0006, which adopted a mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring and reporting program and granted a coastal development use permit.
And then I will just note for the commissioners, I believe the agent for the project is available on Zoom as well.
All right. Is the applicant available to speak? Go ahead.
Hi, this is Deborah Lennox. I'm the agent for the Redwood Coast Wellness Center, and we've had discussions with Keith and Julia about how to move forward to fix the bureaucratic error, and the clients are fine with it. They're not in a big hurry to move forward with breaking ground, so we're good with just doing it all again in November.
Great. Well, I look forward to hearing the presentation again. All right. Well, do we have any questions from the Commission for the applicant or staff? All right. I'll invite public comment now. We'll start with comment in the room and then via Zoom. When called to speak, please state your name for the record. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. Speakers are asked to please address their comments to the meeting chair and refrain from using profanity or engaging in conversation with members of the audience or staff. Is there anyone in the room wishing to speak on this? Seeing no one, do we have anyone on Zoom?
There is nobody on Zoom with their hand raised.
Thank you very much. I'll close the public comment period then. Any final comments from staff?
No final comments.
Great. Any final comments from the applicant?
No, I hope we don't have to do the entire presentation again in November.
I hope so too.
But we will be available for any questions.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. I'm going to close the public comment. This is now before the commission. Do we have any discussion from the commission? All right, I will entertain a motion.
I have one little point.
Oh, great.
When you bring it back, can you bring back the better site plan just so we can see everything?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, I will invite a motion then.
I make a motion vacating the adoption of resolution PC 2024-0010 for U 2019-0006, which adopted a mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring and reporting program and granted a coastal development use permit.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Babini?
Yes.
Commissioner Wiedemann?
Yes.
And Chair Pollen?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right. Okay, agenda item number 7, matters from staff. Do we have any additional items from staff today?
Nothing from us, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any items from the commission?
I would just encourage people to come to Pumpkin Fest. It's going to be great this year. I hope to see everybody there.
All right, duly noted for the record. All right, well then we can move to. Oh, you do? Please.
Yes. I talked a little bit with our head planner about what's our upcoming kind of calendar looking like? Like when are things that have more controversial issues coming forward, such as the vacation rental issue and, of course, the camping issue, and I don't know what else we would have.
That was just the two that we discussed.
Yes. So I'll let Julia kind of give us so we can plan our schedule.
So thank you. So as I mentioned, the temporary or low intensity camping, the board wishes to see that back in front of them in December. So I plan to be in front of this commission in likely November for some additional discussion and workshop with all of you. So that's a key date, would be in November and likely the first meeting in November. And then beyond that, for short-term rentals, we have our senior planner in our coast office, Mark Kleiser, is going to be doing some additional public outreach on drafting regulations. And I would hope to be in front of the Planning Commission, either with additional direction from the Commission or with possibly even a draft ordinance in the new year.
Can I ask a question? It seems like since these are somewhat interrelated that we might want to look at them together. And why is the board setting a weird December deadline? Because it's not like camping happens in the winter.
Well, I don't know. I can only assume. I think the board's intention was to ensure that the current makeup of the board had an opportunity to provide input, which, as you know, there are going to be some shifts in the board coming in January. But then in terms of taking them together, I will say I have debated this myself, and my only concern if we did lump them together is because they do have some distinct issues associated with each. I'd be concerned that the public may feel like they don't get an opportunity to be fully heard in both arenas if it's lumped together in public comment. It's just taken sort of in one lumping of the two issues together. So that's my thought process at the moment, but we'll see how it all comes forward. So
I have one other comment. It'd be great if sometime we had a meeting on the coast, and conscious that everybody hates travel, including Diane. Maybe the next time we have an issue that's relative to the coast, we could think about doing it on the coast, and this might qualify.
Sounds good.
We don't hate traveling to the coast. We love the coast.
Oh. Well, but we promised we were going to do a meeting in the summer, and then it never happened. So I'm just like assuming people didn't want to come.
I just have to figure out school pickup if I'm driving from the coast because I have 2 kids in school that make it hard.
Bring them.
Well, and if I may, there is also too some logistical challenges that would have to be sorted out for in terms of the current format with Zoom streaming and such. There's only certain meeting locations that would meet our standards, and I know there is location in the city of Fort Bragg.
Yeah, town hall would be fine.
Yeah.
Commissioner Weidman?
Yes, so are we going to just say on the camping issue, because that's coming sooner, are we going to advertise so the community can weigh in?
Yes.
Okay. And how are you going to plan to advertise?
So it'd be a publicly noticed public workshop. Likely it would be through a press release, since otherwise it would just be with the agenda publication, but a press release is what I have pictured at this time.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other matters from the commission? All right, I'll move on to agenda item 9, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
Have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.